Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
We are back. Welcome back to the At the Show podcast, presented to you by the Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia. I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my man?
What's going on, everyone out there? I'm glad to be here tonight.
As am I, my friend. A very long week. Very happy to come back and talk some movies, and probably one of my favorite movies. I know you're a big fan of this one too.
Yes, and when you say it's a long week, I'm getting ready for you Sunday when you wake up to say, it's Father's Day, and I want my cake. I've been saying that all day, and I think Katie's getting annoyed, but classic line from Creepshow right there.
Yes. So should I come in with a plastic with paper mache head?
Oh my God!
Yeah, and then the whole face like, oh! Yeah, Ed Harris gets killed by... was he get killed by a tombstone, right? It falls on his head.
It's just Ed Harris's dance and that rivals Crispin Glover's dance.
I don't know if I'm right. No, nobody rivals the Crispin Glover dance.
Because Ed has hair in it. He's not Ed hairless in it. He's actually got a full set. But I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, great. That's a great film. We will do a breakdown on that one. Closer probably towards more of the spooky season. But
I love Halloween. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. But we have a packed show for you today. We have what we've been watching. We have a deep into the 1987 film Predator, which I kind of went a little overboard with the notes going into it. Tone, I sent to you. I'm like, holy shit, it's 16 pages. We're not going to go through all 16 pages, but they're there for reference.
Yeah.
But it's good to have them. But let's go straight into our first segment, Tone. Let's get this show on the road and go into what we've been watching.
Let's do it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, my man?
Okay, I like to mix it up a little bit here. I like to dug into the 80s, an 80s classic that I love and enjoy called License to Drive with two Coreys and a Heather Graham. Heather Graham's name in the movie is Mercedes. I like the movie because of the humor and the comedy. Here is a scene from the movie. Some great lines here.
Okay.
Last name first, first name last.
Pretty much. It's just he doesn't get his license, but he takes the car out at night, and it's Heather Graham, one of her first movies. Also in this movie, playing his father is the man who manages the dogs in the thing, one Mr. Richard Mazer, who you can't any movie Richard Mazer, and he also plays one. We just got his follow, Pauly Shore's dad in Encino Man, but he just plays another great father role here in License to Drive. It's a really good 80s movie that I like a lot. Have you ever seen this one?
Yes, a long time ago. But great film. It's such an 80s film.
That's what it is. I mean, the Coreys, for me personally, it's like I had a buddy who liked this movie called Dream a Little Dream also, but it's been a while since I've seen this one. But this one, and of course, my love for Lost Boys. These are both, as you stated, they're from a different time period, it feels. So it's a really good time. And the music, Get Out of My Dreams and Into My Car, is always stuck in my head because it's very 80s out, and this movie's great. And Carol Kane, who's also an amazing actress, is great as his mother. She's very funny and like Scrooged. But also I've been watching I always like to re-dig into this movie. Big fan of a couple years ago. It came out, The Menu. A huge fan of the performance of one Ralph Fiennes. Just the way he talks in this movie.
Until we deal with an unresolved matter. You.
I'm a big fan of like the absurdity in the movie. Because like if me and you were sitting in this place immediately, we'd be like, we're out of here. We're not sitting here. But the way that people like take it in the way it's all acted out, I like this movie a lot, and I liked when it was nominated. Pretty much about Ralph Fiennes, pretty much a bunch of people invited to an island for a specific menu that he's going to be serving. Lots of tricks, lots of surprises. What did you think of the menu when it came out?
I thought it was very, very good. Lots of surprises. Very, very well done. The food in there made you fucking like starving. It was so appealing. The burger scene in the film.
Yes.
It's like probably one of my favorites, and I heard it was like such an expensive burger for the film. Yeah, it's phenomenally done. I've been kind of getting into more like chef movies, like Chef with Jon Favreau is probably one of my favorite movies. The stuff like that I've been kind of getting into a little bit more. I'm a huge fan of Gordon Ramsay and like Drivers, Dives, and Dives, so I'm a sucker for the E shows like the Food Network shows. So um, I enjoyed this one greatly. It's what I could put on for a rewatch.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because it's in the last couple of years when I think of it's good, a cool movie, original. I think it's kind of like, I don't want to
Mhm.
say it because I do enjoy some of the movies people don't enjoy, but it's almost like M. Night Shyamalan done a better way
Mhm.
than the way he does it even. So like I just found it all around in the performances. He got cut off right before there. We didn't see him, but I mean, John Leguizamo in this movie, he does a really good job. Big fan of his, and it's just cool to see a lot of different little people showing up. Obviously, you did an amazing review of Furiosa.
Mhm.
So to see her here and then see her there, definitely cool to see those type of different roles.
Yeah, and she was actually really excellent in Queen's Gambit,
Yeah,
uh,
sure was.
and Netflix. Jen actually started watching that show, and it's kind of funny because I grew up playing chess. Like I
Mhm.
played it all the way through high school, and like really competitively. Like I actually played downstate, and I played at least go to parks and
Really?
play. Yeah, so I really got
Well,
into
play
it,
sometime.
and seeing when that show came out, Queen's Gambit, everybody getting into chess was like, oh man, it kind of like gave another you know um like rejuvenized chess. So
Yeah.
I'm like, for women especially, which is great because when I played, there was few and far between women that played, girls that played against us. But I see now more and more I see women playing, which is kind of cool.
It's awesome. Well, what have you been watching, my man?
So I fell into the TikTok trap again. Just traveling to TikTok and swiping and whatnot. It always seems to find like new movies or movies I haven't seen in a while to kind of catch my eye. And I refresh my feed every once in a while. And the movie that kept appearing is Mi Familia or My Family, which is released in 1995. It's by Gregory Nava, who also wrote and directed Selena. If you guys have not seen that, that's like Jennifer Lopez's like big breakthrough movie. He also did Border Town, El Norte. He did the screenplay for Frida with Salma Hayek. Really, really good Latino actor, director, and writer. Legendary. This film is kind of like an encapsulation of a family history from traveling from over the border and growing up in California. It's kind of like a family walkthrough of their whole lives, narrated by Edward James Olmos, who, if you guys don't know, in Latino like film history, he's probably like the megastar, like one of the bigger ones. You have Isai Morales in it from La Bamba fame, Bob. Uh, you have Leon Singer, Jimmy Smith's in this film, a young Jimmy Smith's. Jennifer Lopez is also actually in this film too, and also Constance Marie, who you might know from George Lopez fame, maybe as Angie. It's one of my favorite movies, just watching, and it's something you could throw on and listen to. I love the narration by Almost, the way he talks about his family. It's got a lot of comedy in it. Isai Morales, even though he's only in maybe about a quarter of the movie, is hilarious. And when he goes into the Pachuco fight, but they make fun of themselves too when him and the buddy from New York Undercover are going at it, and they're just talking shit to each other, and like Edward James almost just goes, "They're so full of macho bullshit. They didn't really mean anything they said," which makes me laugh. Just a great film. Have you seen this one, Tone?
I'm about where you are with License to Drive. It's been a long time, but
Mhm.
when you brought it up to me, whenever we talk these movies or you bring them up, I remember exactly the first time I heard them. That's what happens. So for this, I remember actually when it was released, and I thought when it was released, I would mean, what year did this movie come out again?
95.
So that puts me at 13. I'm thinking to myself, like, I thought it was actually really cool that a movie was being released at the theater called Me Familia, because it wasn't being even at River Oaks. It wasn't called My Family. It wasn't until later when they started really pumping it out, like to get people to come in. But when it came out, it was called Me Familia. And again, the actors in this movie, I mean, Edward James Olmos is awesome. The last line that he delivers inside Blade Runner is one of my favorite lines of all time. But Jimmy Smits is great. He was actually really good on Dexter, if you never watched that. But
Yes.
S.I. Morales, again, great pick. I need to dig back in because honestly, you're going to find me watching like the scariest movie and then backed up by like a movie about family. I always love those movies where like it starts when they're kids. I mean, you name the movie about a family from the beginnings to the time. I've watched them. Like I watched this one. It was called like The Inkwell. Just a lot of different ones that because like you said, you could put them on. I could be working on a little video, but like be into it because of the story and the way the narration and stuff. So very cool pick.
Thanks, man. There's a lot of actors in here that you've seen in a lot of Latino roles, like Valente Rodriguez, who's Ernie from George Lopez. You have even the great Scott Bakula in this film. He plays the husband of Constance Marie.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of actors that you guys know that just play small roles, but it all is gelled together. Really, really good, like fictional biopic. It's a good little film if you guys haven't seen it. And then to close out, what I've been watching is something that I throw on just for nonsense. I discovered this show freshman year in college. My friend Camille, who lived on the 8th floor. So I went to U of I, and in FAR, the odd number floors were the girls' floors, and the even number were the boys' floor. Actually, the odd number was the men's floors. The even number was the girls' floor. So she came to my room and was like, "Hey, have you ever seen Aqua Teen Hunger Force?" And I'm like, "What the hell is that?" She's like, "It's coming on Adult Swim. Check it out." So me, her, and my buddy Chris, we sat around. We watched this ridiculous, like 20-minute, 2-episode show about a milkshake, a fry, and a meatball, basically doing like things that make no sense. Uh, it's a show that you have to suspend belief completely and all logic. It makes completely no sense, but it is hilarious. Me and my brother were going through the Moon Knight episodes, if you haven't seen. And the Moon Knights are basically these two characters from the moon who come down and basically talk mad shit about how great the moon is when they're like very primitive and everything. Even their attack is basically a slow moving pixel that's like kind of like Atari. Uh, like it has excellent characters. Master Shake is probably like one of my favorite characters in comedy altogether because the person that plays him is awesome. Um, you have Schoolie D does their entrance song. Carl, the neighbor Carl, is hysterical. Just like a whole bunch of wackiness. It went on for a lot of years. It got canceled and then got brought back. It actually had a couple movies made out, and now Max has brought it back to HBO. So if you want to check it out and you have Max, check that out. Have you seen this show, Tone?
Well, where do I get started? A great show all around. When I first was introduced to it by a buddy, I'll be honest with you, I just thought it was ridiculous. I didn't really get it. I was really into like Family Guy. This was like, wow, this is out there. But then as I'm in college, I see people blah blah blah, and then next thing you know, like I'll never forget this, which makes me laugh when you tell me these stories come up. Is I come home from college and my dad goes, "You ever hear this movie?" He kind of sounds like Carl. I'm like, show. I'm like, no. He's like, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And honestly, my dad pretty much turned into like Stephen King and Creep Show with this this fucking show. Like honestly, I laughed because I looked over my pile, like I have his old DVDs because he's passed on, and I look over and I got his I got this one to cover here. I got the DVD sitting over on the floor because man, he would watch these, and you just mentioning the Mooninites and Carl, and imagine. I'll never forget how hard I laughed. The one where Carl's got he's got a girl over at the house, but he's got his leg up on the couch and he's doing the Rock, and he's showing off, just so stupidly, ridiculously awesome. That great show. And honestly, that's why I'm looking at our list here. That's the type of person I am, is that I like all of these moods the same because they're all just different. And it was a good pick.
Yeah, thanks, man. Dana Snyder does Master Shake's voice. He does Squidbillies too. Yeah,
Meatwad. I mean, just
Meatwad.
Very, very creative. And that's why I don't know why I didn't catch it at first, but just a really creative show. And I like the way they do the animation.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot.
My brother just texted me right now. Did you tell him about the spelling? For those who don't know, there's basically when the Mooninites come down and they're trying to tell Frylock, when the Fry character, how great they are. Ignicknock, the leader, is explaining how they have a vertical leap that's better, and he's basically, and the Frylock responds, "Oh, so you're better than us because you can jump higher." He's like, "Well, not just that." And his little buddy goes, "Did you tell him about the spelling?" He's like, "Oh yes, we're excellent spellers. Challenge us." And he goes, "Challenge us both." Just stupid shit like that is just what makes me laugh. Like that, the Mooninites are the best villains in the show. I mean, then you have Chris Ward, who did MCP Pants, which is there's just so much. We should do a breakdown of or I should write an article on some breakdown of some of the episodes, because they're just so out there, but they're so hilarious, and they're not time consuming at all because they're 15 minutes of just wackiness with no continuity at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Max right now. If you have Max, just watch the first couple episodes. You'll be like, "What the hell is this?" But then you get into it and you'll love it. But that's what we've been watching this week. Let us know what you've been watching over at the show pod, or let us know at our Twitters at Lil Yumper or at the Sugar Baggy. Let us know, or even let us know in the comments here. The video. What's this? What said the video before the movie with the mess down tune is incredible. Yeah,
it is. It is.
Yes, it is. Oh man, so
that movie, it was awesome. It was cool. That movie, it was at the theater. I mean, that's what. The chap wanted to come on and say, "Disaster Artist is gold. Why don't you buy water for everybody, Craig?"
Yeah.
By the way, that's our movie. We're very obsessed with just a lot of quotes in that movie, and that's another one late in the game to the Disaster Artist.
Have you seen Tommy Wiseau had a TV show on Adult Swim?
No.
Oh my god, it's so bad, dude. He does one where it's supposedly these aliens are basically telling him what to do, and he plays Mortal Kombat, and all he does is kick, and he's like, "I'm the killer." That's what he keeps saying. He's like, "Oh, the killer, Frost guy. I'm a wizard." It's and Tommy Wiseau is completely out there. If you've seen him in interviews,
wow,
nobody knows how old he is in real life. People don't know how he got as well. People think he sold fake furs. Some people think he sold drugs. He's completely out there. Such a character.
Fake fur. I love it.
Yeah. Check that out, Tony, when you get a chance. You can look it up on YouTube clips. It's just ridiculous. But let's get into our main event, my friend, because we got a lot to talk about for this one.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna go into the 1987 film Predator. Now, Tony, when was the first time you actually saw this film?
Oh man, I mean, we're tipping. I mean, if it's not 88, 89, or 90, I mean, it was a little before that. Right. I mean, it's one of the first movies, top 20 movies that I remember seeing. Because I also remember to kind of weave it in together at the same time. I remember at the same time Contra comes out. So I've seen this movie, but then I get Contra, and Contra just kind of reminds me, the game on Nintendo reminds me some of it a little bit like this. There's one of the characters looks like Billy, one of the characters kind of looks like Arnold, and it's is this like Predator, this movie that I just watched? I enjoy Predator for a lot of reasons. I think it's very easy on the feet. I think it's a really great movie that isn't deep, but it's It's really, really, really awesome. So right around, I'd say that time period, late 80s. How about you, my friend? I think you're muted.
I'm
No.
sorry. It was probably around the same period, probably in the early 90s, like 90, 91. I remember my cousin renting it from the Masterpiece Video, and me watching it with him and just being blown away by like Arnold. It's like one of my first introductions to Arnold in general. Then, of course, we got introduced to Total Recall, and then all the other Commando, all the other films that really pumped me into him.
Because I mean, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but I did get the lucky opportunity at the age of 10. For some reason, my dad took me to Predator 2.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's got to be right before that because I knew what Predator was. So yeah, right about 89.
Yeah, for me, it was more that's like my introduction, and then I got into Terminator, and then Terminator 2 came out, and I actually saw that in theater. Uh, so that was like really, really. I heard he stuck. Oh man, I didn't know that.
Oh,
But yeah, I really got into that, and like Arnold was like one of the, Arnold's a bigger than life character. I of all the crappy things he's probably said and done, I still have a soft spot for him. There's a great Netflix documentary on him called Arnold, and it basically goes through his life and from in Germany and Austria, overseas, and then coming here. It's a great, he talks about the things he's done and the bad things he's done, and he takes responsibility for them. But totally an interesting cat. Like he doesn't believe in negativity. He believes that positively breaks him out of everything, and like you shouldn't be negative and don't feel sorry for yourself. That's his big thing. Don't feel sorry for yourself. But yeah, got me into the Arnold mood, and this film is like the epitome of machismo for talking about it. Like totally, you got 20 like bodybuilders in this film. Uh, it's like it's one of the great action sci-fi films that can kind of scare you a little bit too with the creature in it.
yeah.
But you ready to break this sucker down, Tone?
Let's do it.
All right, let's start breaking it down to the development, my friend.
In my thoughts, I use the technique of positive visualization.
So to get started with this film, the story, we're gonna go into how the story came about. And wouldn't you know, this film was actually partially inspired by Rocky. The famous joke going around Hollywood in the mid 80s was about who Rocky Balboa would fight in Rocky 5. This is before Rocky 5 came out. That was horrible, but I'm a lover of the Rocky films. After defeating a much larger, much stronger Russian opponent, Ivan Drago, in Rocky 4, Rocky had beaten just about everyone. So who would his next opponent be? And everybody joked, well, it has to be an alien. Well, Jim Thomas and his brother John based their script on a joke. The script was originally named Hunter, and the original concept centered around what it was like to be hunted. It concerned a band of alien hunters of various species seeking various targets. Eventually, it was rewritten and watered down and broken down to just one extraterrestrial hunting what they considered one of the most dangerous species, human beings. So when they had the script all done, Tone, they actually went out and they tried to pitch it. Now, the Thomas brothers were not really well known in Hollywood, so it was really, really hard to get meetings with studios, to get it even put before producers. So they did the best thing they could do, and they actually slid underneath 20th century producers Michael Levy's door. So they slipped their script under his door while he wasn't there, and were just praying that he would take it up. Well, Levy liked it. He actually went and took it to this guy named Joel Silver, who was blown away by the script. He loved it so much he went and enlisted Lawrence Gordon, who was his former boss, as his new producer. And the two then approached Jeff Murphy for a directing role, but that didn't work out too well. So they settled on John McTiernan. So there isn't no big search for a director. They actually knew who they wanted in mind. They had Murphy, and then Murphy didn't work out. They went straight to McTiernan. So they have the director, and they have the producer, and now we have a film about to be made. So what do you think about the whole thing about it being basically made from a Rocky joke?
Yeah, I just imagine. Actually, Rocky 5 would have been a lot better if maybe he was fighting an alien. But all jokes aside, very interesting to hear that that's where it kind of gets its beginnings, because of just the connections that we've heard between Arnold and Sly. That you get a little connection here just between the great Rocky franchise and the beginning of the Predator franchise here.
And Brian comments, Commando was my first Arnold exposure. Well, Brian, that ties into the casting here. So for the role of Dutch Schaefer, Major Alan Dutch Schaefer, Fresh Off Commando was the last film that Silver had produced, and he pitched it to the star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who accepted the role before the pitch could even end. He loved it so much that he accepted the role before Silver got done pitching it to him. The original plot had Dutch Schaefer pitted against the Predator alone, but Schwarzenegger thought this was a bad idea, and the script was rewritten to include a team of crack commandos. Now, Schwarzenegger has gone on record saying he wanted the commandos to be big and buff of a bodybuilder type because he said big men sell money, sell movies. So in this instance, he was correct. They also went for the character of Al Dillon. His name's Al. I didn't know his name was Al Dillon until I actually looked him up. They went with the veteran actor Carl Weathers, who is from the Rocky series. Carl Weathers came on board because John McTiernan wanted an actual actor to work with Schwarzenegger. Director had to actually fight to get him in the quality role, and he was always McTiernan's first choice for Dillon. Weathers actually joked in an interview that Arnold Schwarzenegger got him addicted to cigar smoking when he initially declined, because if you don't know, Carl Weathers was like a health nut, like a big time health nut. And Arnie kind of was a bad influence on him and told him, try these cigars, and he got hooked on them, which I think is hilarious. Carl Weathers went on to say, shame on Arnie, shame on you for getting me addicted to cigars, which I thought was pretty funny. Then we have for Elepidia Carrijo, who was cast as Ana Gonzalez. Then we have Bill Duke, veteran actor Bill Duke, as Master Sergeant Mac Elliott. Yes, Dougie, somebody did say cigars. We have Richard Chavez as Staff Sergeant Jorge Pancho Ramirez. Chavez was a former Vietnam vet, and he was brought in for his bodybuilding physique and the fact that he was in Vietnam, so he could help with the consulting on the military aspect. Then we have this guy who everybody is known as the Body, some in the wrestling industry, but this was his film debut. As Jesse Ventura was brought in as First Class Blaine Cooper. I'm sorry. Schwarzenegger recommended Jesse Ventura for Blaine after interviewing him for the role. He thought he looked the part, was big enough, and had a deep voice, and was manly. Now, if you don't remember, Ventura was actually working for WWE at that time WWF, and he was a announcer, basically a color announcer. He actually got fired because he took this role.
Oh,
didn't know that. Like that he was working on a film, and he got fired, and eventually he would go to WCW and then eventually back to WWF. Ventura was delighted to find out, though, that during a wardrobe department, when he was in there with the wardrobe ladies, he found out that his arms were 1 inch bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was getting measured for his costumes and his gear. He suggested to Schwarzenegger that they measure arms, with the winner getting a bottle of champagne. Ventura lost the bet because Schwarzenegger had told the wardrobe department to tell Ventura that his arms were bigger. So Schwarzenegger pranked Ventura. Baby, you got a Predator going, Carl Weathers. Jesse Ventura, in turn, pulled a prank on Arnold Schwarzenegger by pouring water over himself while at the gym before Arnold arrived. Thinking that Ventura was drenched in sweat, Arnold believed that Ventura was working out longer than he usually did. He resolved to begin his workout sooner. He and Ventura both started arriving earlier to one-up each other until they both started to arrive at the gym at 4 a.m. This is total musclehead stuff. Also, there was a lot, since we're in a war film and these people actually served. If you guys don't know, Jesse Ventura is actually a frogman, which is an associate of the SEALs. He's an honorary SEAL, but he actually served in a lot of military and had a lot of combat. He said on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast that he recalled that when he was in the film, he mentally went back to his days in Vietnam as a Navy SEAL, because of this film filming in the jungles of Mexico. He explained that the smell of the weapons, the shooting. At one point, his wife was with him and he was laying in his room. He jumped up out of his sleep and said, "Don't worry, the area is secure." He then fell right back to sleep, and his wife was freaked out because he's never done that. He said the movie was actually pretty easy for him, but this is stuff that brought back a little PTSD, which is really interesting. I never heard anybody say that they're back in the when they went through in life and then they're acting it out again. Kind of brought it back, which is pretty crazy. Chavez kind of said that he would say he felt like he was back in Vietnam in certain aspects due to the heat and in the jungle, which is interesting. We have the great Sonny Landham as Sergeant First Class
But
Billy Soul. Go ahead.
it's a legend. That's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Oh, yeah.
legend.
Yeah. So Sonny was known for partying to the point where when he was cast, they had to hire a bodyguard, not to protect Sonny, but to protect you from Sonny. And it was the only way the insurance company would insure him to act on the film. He was known to go out to the bars, get drunk, crawl on the floor, kiss women's feet, roll around, and just do crazy stuff. Sonny was a crazy guy, and he also ran for political office, which is kind of funny because you have two people in this film that actually ran for governor and won in Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Sonny, I believe, ran for Kentucky senator and did not win. But moving on, we have Shane Black as Sergeant Rick Hawkins. Now, this is the film debut of Shane Black. If you don't know who Shane Black is, he's a guy who wrote a little film called Lethal Weapon. He also wrote a film called The Last Boy Scout, which he was actually working on while he was doing this film. He was chosen because Joel Silver wanted somebody who could rewrite the scripts if needed. He didn't have acting chops, as Silver would say. He needed somebody that could write, and he kind of threw him a bone with a little bit of this, in this film, which I think is kind of cool. Jack Black's dad, maybe, I don't know. Rounding out the cast, we have R.G. Armstrong as Major General Homer Phillips, and then we have the role of the Predator. Now, for those who don't know, I would say when you think of big action stars in the 80s, you always would say number one or two would probably either be Stallone or Schwarzenegger. And they always would say the third person was always Van Damme. Well, Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally cast as the creature due to his athletic ability and his martial arts skills. However, the original design for the Predator was too cumbersome and difficult to manage in the jungle, and Van Damme couldn't make the required movements in it. Additionally, it was reported that Van Damme constantly complained about the monster suit being too hot, causing him to pass out, while also voicing his restrictions on numerous occasions about the fact that he would not be appearing on camera without the suit. Van Damme was eventually removed from the film officially for being too short at 6'9". Arnold Schwarzenegger and his team of bodybuilders were about 6'2" to 6'5". Now, Tony is showing a great picture of what the original suit looked like. I actually have a couple other pictures here. And I'm sorry that you are not, if you're listening to us on the podcast, check us out on the YouTube at Sadistic Penguin Studios. Here is the ridiculous look of the suit from the beginning. So that's a more body picture of the suit here. And then we have what they use for infrared for the suit. But first, let's go to Van Damme in the suit. We can see him there. And then we have the infrared suit because they use chroma key. Since the jungle is green, you can't use green to call out, so you have to use red. This is what it looks here, and we're gonna see it in motion here.
Oh wow!
So Van Damme was not happy about this, but he was originally the first Predator, and that's pretty funny. Like when I saw that, so I couldn't stop laughing. Just felt the the little throw. The Predator costume itself became a kind of its own little story. The invisibility cloaking effect was achieved with a bright red suit, which I just showed, because it was the farthest opposite of the green in the jungle and the blue of the sky. The size of the Predator was easy to mask out because of it was about 7 feet tall when it eventually came out. The red was removed with chroma techniques, leaving an empty space area. The take was then repeated without the actors using a 30% wider lens on the camera. When the two takes were combined optically, the jungle from the second take filled in the empty area. So this is filming 101 in the 80s. Because the second take was filmed in a wider lens, a vague outline of the alien would be replaced and seen in the background. The studio picked Boss Studio for the first design of the Predator suit to save money, and as you can see, it looks very, very cheap. The third Predator was far more arthropod insect-like, like Tony showed earlier in the appearance, and according to Arnold Schwarzenegger, it looked like someone in a lizard suit with the head of a duck. However, the suit was not felt to be scary enough, and initial performer Jean-Claude Van Damme couldn't properly move in it. On Schwarzenegger's suggestion, Stan Winston was brought in. Now, if you don't know who Stan Winston is, he actually won an Oscar for Aliens with John Cameron. He designed all the xenomorph um, designs. Great monster creator. He was brought in to redesign the creature for $1.5 million, which was twice the budget that Boss Studio had charged. This meant that the final fight scene had to be reshot. The new Predator was 8.5 feet tall due to this, but then they recast this guy by the name of Kevin Peter Hall, who was 7'2". Now, Kevin Peter Hall, I can show a picture of him here, and he is in the bottom half of the Predator suit. And then we have him here when he is, that's actually probably this one here when he's actually in the full suit with a fan standing there. He actually did hit Schwarzenegger once when fighting, which I thought was pretty crazy. Just like the comparison too. I mean, you have this to, this. Like,
Oh yeah.
Totally two totally different look. The Predator's scaly flesh is based on koi fish and locusts, and the Predator's head was built as a separate piece. Now, the reason this is important is because, as I said before, it was a more of a insect-looking thing, and now it had mandibles for its mouth. And the reason that the Predator has mandibles is because of the great James Cameron, who happened to come by on set, saw his buddy working on it, and was like, you know what? I never seen a monster with mandibles before. And it gave him the idea to do so. So they had to make the head separately. And the cool thing is, when doing research for this, Kevin Peter Hall actually had control of the mandibles to move.
Oh.
So he was actually controlling them as he was moving, which I thought was pretty awesome. I know you would think that would probably be done in post, but when he's doing the scream and whatnot, he's actually has a way to control them with his facial and levers that were in his hands, which I thought was pretty cool.
That was very cool.
But yeah, that's pretty much enough on the suit. I want to go into it and just give you a little bit more detail on it. But I know I gave you a lot for it, but it just really interests me about the suit.
Very interesting.
Travis Michael says, "How's it going? This is one of my favorite films since I saw it when I was 5, a long time ago." Yeah, man, it's one of our favorite films too. And to top this all off, Tone, do you know who voiced the Predator?
Ooh, yes, I do. Of Transformers fame, Mr. Peter Cullen.
Yes, Optimus Prime himself voiced him, which I thought was amazing. I didn't even know this until I read this today. Peter Cullen was reluctant to take the job of voicing the Predator as he had injured his throat playing the title character of King Kong in 1976, but eventually accepted after seeing a picture of the unmasked creature. So that unmasked creature sold him to get into this film. The crazy thing is, a lot of the cast members who were playing the soldiers came basically out of shape, and they would have to wake up at 3 a.m. and train to get them in shape. Something Ventura had no issue with and said it was really easy for him because it was nothing compared to what he had to go through with the SEALs, which I thought was pretty crazy. The film did come with a lot of issues though, because they filmed in Mexico and they had a lot of problems with the heat. In an effort not to get sick while filming in Mexico, John McTiernan instead went without much eating. He said, "I lost 25 pounds. The line producer lost almost 40. Schwarzenegger did get sick to eating street food in Puerto Vallarta. He ended up playing a scene with the IV bottle in his arm once. The actor grows visibly thinner throughout the film, and he actually does. I watched the film again today, as he began not eating as well in order to avoid illness. Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Shane Black, and Bill Duke got terribly sick from bad water because the filtration system at their hotel where they were staying at in Mexico had broken down. Their filtration system had broken down, and the hotel failed to tell the tenants there that they were getting bad water, which is ridiculous. When they filmed the sequence when Billy tells Dutch that something is in the tree, Arnold Schwarzenegger and the cast race to the bathroom with John McTiernan when he called cut. Stay on, Travis. I got something for you. Several weeks of green screening, shooting on a stage in Los Angeles followed a 3-month shoot in Mexico, enabling filmmakers to pick up some of the film more difficult Predator action shots. So they shot some of the action shots of the Predator in Los Angeles, but they did shoot some of the scenes in Mexico. And Kevin Peter Hall had to wear that suit to where when he would pull it off, it'd be full of sweat and smelled. The producer that used to take care of it did love the fact he used to drive around in his car and tell people, "Look what I got in the back." So he had fun with that. The filming provided a variety of hardships for the actors, such as leeches and snakes, and the humidity and the rough terrain. All the night scenes were filmed during freezing cold temperatures, which were especially hard on Schwarzenegger because he was covered in mud. Actually, it was pottery clay, which became cold and wet. He was warned it would make his body temperature. It would take his body temperature down a few degrees, and he shivered nonstop, even when they tried to heat him up with lamps. Just to make the clay dry out. He tried drinking Yager tea, schnapps mix to warm him up, but it just made him drunk. Also, there was an issue with ants. Chavez says he decided to take a seat. He says he checked the area, plopped himself down in a bush. The next thing I know, I'm covered in red ants. I was bitten almost 100 times down on my arms and went into a little bit of shock. Was running through the jungle, ripping my clothes off, butt ass naked. They had a water tank, and I went into the water tank and just doused myself. So this was not an easy shoot for the actors. They had a lot of trials and tribulations with the elements, with the the animals there, with the food. It was just kind of a nightmare, man. So what do you think about all this?
It's crazy that when you watch a movie like this, I mean, all that went into it, that makes it seem that went against to the greatness of what the movie is. Running when they call cut to use the bathroom, all the way to just, I mean, the first time I heard about all that Van Damme, him being in the movie and all that, but then seeing, as you posted, the way the alien looked and knowing there couldn't have been a better decision. I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie. Mark Hamill is in it. It's called The Guyver.
Oh, I love that movie.
Where this looks like a very poor version of the Guyver, like this costume. That's what I get from it. So it was cool that you were able to find that clip right there.
I want to keep that GIF up so we can just play it randomly, randomly out of nowhere. Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff that happened within this. I know I gave you guys a lot of information on the suit, and I wanted to give you a lot of information on the casting, but that's what I usually do. I go overboard. But that's pretty much the development. We have broken down the development. Tony, you want to get into the film?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into this film, my friend.
See the arc? He starts down here. He ends up here. Where's my arc, Paulie?
Such a great film scene. So we open the film in a space scene where we see basically looks like a little star come through and then shoot towards Earth. And it's funny because in that scene, Tone, and his commentary for a special edition release of Predator, director John McTiernan sounds genuinely surprised when the movie opens in space with a shot of the alien craft dropping Predator on the Earth. He said, "Wow, I haven't seen this movie in a long time." McTiernan goes on to note, while the shot was in script from day one, he didn't have anything to do with making it because it was created entirely in post-production. It was always in the script, but it never showed up until about an hour before the movie opened, he notes. We then see the famous appearance of the helicopter and the opening scene of the main characters coming into play. Yes, we hear the great score by Al Silvestri. And then we first see the first appearance of Dutch as he's smoking a cigar in this helicopter. Now, due to health and safety regulations, Arnold Schwarzenegger was not allowed to light his cigar inside the helicopter in the beginning of the film. As a result, the glow was added officially, optically, in post production. So that's post production cigar. And we get this famous scene that is probably quoted more than anything.
Dylan! You son of a bitch. What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
We see the introduction of Al Dillon and his old buddy Dutch as they reunite. They shake hands, they do a little, fist pumping and whatnot. And basically, Dutch is given a mission. Dutch is a part of a rescue team. He is told by Dillon they have some people that are across enemy lines, and they want them to go in there and rescue them. Uh, Dutch is kind of weary of doing so, but he's told, they'll have free reign. And he's like, okay, they're going to go in there. They say they're a rescue team. They're not mercenaries. That's one thing Dutch points out, which Dillon gives a side-eye look to his general. And right there, Tony, you can see that there's something going on in the background. Something's not up to a level or on par, as they would say, with the story.
No, not at all. You're starting to feel, something more to this story than just a couple old friends meeting up and calling each other sons of bitches.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So then we go into where he's told there are going to be joined by another member, which is Dillon himself, that will be going with Dutch, which Dutch is kind of like, oh, okay, because they used to run missions before. And then we cut to them going to the drop-off point in the helicopter, and we meet all the other commandos that are within the unit, including the great Jesse Ventura, who plays Blaine.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me.
Yeah, strap this on your sore ass, Blaine.
That song there, right there, too, is really awesome. Played it quite a lot. Do you know who sings that song?
No.
Little Richard.
Oh, yes, Little Richard. Gonna have some fun tonight?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a classic.
There are some sources that say the shot of the ship was going to be in the movie until later, which would have made for a viewer interesting review of the alien as it would have come out of nowhere. Yeah, cool. As we go down into the great opening scene of them going to the drop-off point, we hear the music in the background, we hear them laughing, joking around, and then when they get the little sign from the helicopter to say it's time for business, they shut off the music and get ready to drop. I do love the fact that they see them joking around, but when it's time to, put some this our Jean-Claude Van Damme right there. It's time to basically, get basically in work mode. That's what they do. I love the aspect that switches between the characters doing so. We see them drop into the mission, and they're going around, and we see the first appearance of the jungle, and we hear the score of the beating drums. And originally, Joel Silver wanted Michael Kamen to do the music for the film after collaborating with him on Lethal Weapon, but Kamen was unavailable due to him working on Adventures in Babysitting. However, director John McTiernan recommended hiring Alan Silvestri after hearing his work on Back to the Future in 1985. Silvestri's score became so iconic that he was brought back for Predator 2 and score for Predators, reused many of his original musical themes. That's one of my favorite scenes is when they drop down and you start to hear the music of the banging of the drums. It's kind of like Congo. What do they call bongos?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What do you think of that whole drop down scene?
Again, the music, I think, you take away the musical score. I think it takes away a good 20-25% of the feeling, because a lot of it definitely all intertwines.
Man, Travis throwing down some good stuff here about Jim Harper and David Harbour's character in Stranger Things. Yep. I totally made that connection too. Which is probably homage, because they played a lot of homage to the 80s films in Stranger Things. So upon going through the jungle, we find a helicopter has been shot down. They find out that it was actually shot down with a heat seeker, which is kind of a big, arsenal for some gorillas. We also find out that 12 guerrillas took 2 men from the chopper, and then after that, 6 Army men from the US followed them in Army military gear, which again throws a little, wrench into the situation that Dylan's trying to say. They're just going to rescue his men. Harper and the other bodies are found when Billy goes around searching for them and finds them hanging upside down.
That shot got me as a kid. I remember
Mhm.
seeing that and being like, "Wow, that got me." It felt real, that one.
Yeah, and it's very graphic too. Like you see
Yeah.
their body parts laying all over the floor. One thing, it's just out of nowhere too, because you see Billy go and basically cut the sap, the tree sap, and he's drinking the tree sap, and he looks up and you just see like, and he gets scared. Like so when the Billy's supposed to be this tough guy and he gets like shocked and scared, he's like, ugh, he runs away, and it's just ridiculous. And their bodies are all skinned. And even Panto's like, why would the gorilla skin them? Which,
You you also brought up about Billy drinking from the tree.
Mhm.
I remember, specifically, like, asking my dad for seeing that, "Can you really drink from a tree like that?" Like, I just thought that was so amazing. He, like, cuts the vine and Billy just just thought it was
Yeah,
awesome.
I remember asking my dad that too. He's like, "Oh, he's drinking the sap."
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Mhm. So also during this scene, we also see the first shot of the predator's infrared and the sounds. The filmmakers used an infrared thermal video scanner for the predator's thermal vision and gave it good heat images of objects and people. The predator's infrared vision is the same as how snakes detect their own prey. The Predator Vision was created using, again, visual effects and a heat vision camera. The distinctive clicking and gurgling noises that the Predator makes throughout the film was brought up by Peter Cullen. After the producers approached him to give the Predator a voice, he was taken aback. He had no idea what such a creature was supposed to sound like, not to mention what the producers were reluctant to show when they were reluctant to show what he looked like. He relented and showed him the design, and Cullen, who thought the Predator resembled a dying horseshoe crab, remembered as a kid, if he turned one over, it would gurgle, and that became the Predator sound. The character of the Predator was never meant to make the distinctive clicking noise. McCullen had finished 11 reels of King Kong and was coughing up blood. He
Ooh.
chose the vocalization because it was easier on his voice. Yeah, the skin body's nerd music. It's pretty messed up. We then see them say, okay, these people have been killed by the gorillas. We're going to take revenge because as Arnold was given the dog tags, he knew who Jim Harper was. Again, Dylan says he doesn't know why he was there, but they're going to take out the gorillas. They go and attack the village, Tone. And when they're attacking the village, we get the famous scene of one-liners from Knock Knock to this.
Yeah! Stick around.
That is like one of the corniest, like badass lines from anybody. And the machete-like weapon that Dutch throws at the bad guy was made special for the film by the knife thrower, trying to sell the production of his wares. John McTiernan wasn't thrilled with any of the existing blades, but asked if he could manufacture a machete instead. It ended up being far too big and heavier than expected. So the stick around quip was added as a way for Dutch to get rid of it. Schwarzenegger gave it to the director at the end of the shooting, and he still has it, which I thought was pretty cool. We see them going and fighting all the gorillas. We also seen the famous scene where 2 gorillas have got themselves stuck in a hill.
Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Jesse Ventura. Yeah, Jesse Ventura said that firing a minigun is like shooting a chainsaw. And he was also Jesse Ventura's character Blaine became the first actor ever to fire the M134 minigun handheld. Several actors have since joined this statistic, including fellow Predator star Arnold Schwarzenegger in this film called, I don't know if you heard of it, Terminator 2, and Oleg Taktarov in Predators, which is an homage to Blaine, which I thought was pretty crazy. We then see, as they go through, they find out that they are actually turned on by Dylan as they find that those guys were working for the CIA, which Dylan is a member of, and they actually went in to become mercenaries, which is something that Dutch has said that his team is not.
My orders were to get somebody and who could crack these bastards.
So he cooked up a story and dropped the 6 of us in a meat grinder.
I love that. He's like, what happened to you, Dylan? You should be somebody you could trust.
To be somebody I can trust.
He's like, I grew up, or I got.
Yeah, he's like, I grew up, or yeah. How about you? It's classic.
We also see the introduction of the character Anna, who tries to attack Arnold in the back, and he just basically turns around and punches her, and she falls on the floor. And the only reason he lets her live is because of the fact she's a woman. She's then captured by Arnold, and we see, the first long version of the infrared. As I think probably one of the cooler scenes in the film is when Mac tells Dylan to turn around as he's arguing with Dutch, and Dylan says what? He turns around and Mac stabs him in the back, but it's to take off a scorpion. And he says, thanks. And he goes, anytime. Well, of course, the predator who's always watching mimics this.
That whole scene is,
Go ahead.
Whole scene is great. I remember the infrared because he's got like his hand, and then he moves it or whatever, and it's like the scorpion, just real cool. Again, I think it's aged pretty well. It does not look.
It still looks amazing.
Looks amazing.
Yeah, and Billy first senses the predator after the attack on the guerrilla camp. However, this is not the result of a sixth sense or heightened state of awareness, which Billy demonstrates in the later segment. Rather, Billy hears the predator mimic his own laugh that he had just shared with Hawkins when Hawkins tells him that horrible joke. Also, Shane Black wrote all his horrible jokes in this film, and that he shared with Hawkins a few seconds before. If you can listen closely, you will hear the predator attempt to mimic the laugh somewhat quietly, which unnerves Billy, immediately causing him to look towards the trees. So Billy's one of the first people to start. You just sense that they may not be alone, and like you said, that scene is perfect. Perfectly shot. Dougie, you have not seen Dougie. Oh my goodness, Dougie, we gotta sit down and watch some films. I mean, you, my man, all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a great time.
Yeah.
I knew you. If you just by your music, this is like metal in movies.
Yeah,
like,
this is all up your alley, Dougie. Yeah. Also, a shout out to Travis for letting us know. He said, "I woke up. Why don't you?"
Yes, that is true.
So after we see this scene of the scorpion, the infrared, we know that they're alone. It's like one of the first shots of the alien. We then see Dylan pushing around Anna as his prisoner, and she is his luggage, as Dutch has told him, she's your package. If you fall behind, it's on you. He pushes her away, and she throws leaves in his face and starts to run, to which Dutch shoots off, "Hey, follow her." Again, Billy is spooked.
Billy is
because
spooked.
Yeah, he's looking in the sky again, and Mary's yelling at me now. Mary knows what's up. So Hawkins chases her down, and this is where we see one of the first commandos, and actually when the members get killed, and Hawkins is slaughtered. I love this scene as he tells her, "Please calm down," and he turns, and you see the shot of the camouflage coming towards him, and just the blood just spray across her face and him screaming. Again, Shane Black was killed early off so he could handle rewrites. So that's why he was killed. This character was killed early off. And we hear the great scene that when they ask her, what happened? Like, what was going on? Why did this happen? She says,
"Not a thing."
Oh, my bad. He basically says it came from the jungle. Which, is when he says that's not what she said. What she says doesn't make any sense. We then cut to as they're searching for Hawkins. He says, "Have you found Hawkins?" He says, "Maybe. I don't know." And they find his body parts, and you look up, and he's actually hanging, which was pretty crazy. What do you think of that whole scene, Tom?
Again, I always replay the way everybody goes in this movie because, like as you stated, it seemed like in most horror movies, somebody goes really quick. Shane Black goes really quickly. And then, as you stated, being able to see him, like, if you're empathetically one of these other soldiers, you see that, man. I mean, I don't know if there's anything more scary. And then you're trapped in the jungle too. For me, the thing that would make this all worse is the degrees. It's like 95 degrees if you're out there too. It's just a lot of bad elements all working together.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. We then see, them going to this perimeter of the area to look for Hawkins. We see Blaine, who's played by Ventura, with his minigun. He first gets spooked by, I believe it's a possum in the tree trunks that freaks him out. Then as he thinks like, oh, it's just a possum, we see the fucking laser just shoot him in his chest the first time, and then shoot him again, and he just drops, and we see Mac trying to go rush towards him, where we see the first appearance of the eyes of the predator as it like kind of shows its eyes, it blinks, where Mac opens fire, hits it in its leg, and we see it bleed as it's running away. That's the only shot that hits it. The blood was actually made from glow sticks, which I thought was pretty crazy. They mixed a bunch of glow sticks and they broke them apart and they basically dumped it to make it look cool, which it does look really cool, and that still actually holds up. We then see as you opened up this segment with them all shooting like crazy, laying off the minigun, laying off all their grenade launchers, shooting everything in sight, and they find out from Pancho.
Not a thing. Not a fucking trace. No blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
Which they find out they didn't hit anything, which was crazy. The scene always confused me. I wasn't sure that it hits planes. I thought it was a dirty washcloth as a kid. Yeah, it like I watched it today, Travis, and it hits him one time and then it hits him again. So he hit him with two, and that's how it goes through his chest. Like it hits him the push and then it pushes it out in the second shot. I always thought it was weird too. And then they look at him, he has like an opened up chest cavity. They're told to basically pack up Blaine and they go to set a perimeter, which he has Mac do. And Mac, and as the story goes, Mac and Blaine were pretty much best friends. I'm assuming they were back from the same place as earlier. They were sharing a little bit from their flask, some whiskey. He says it tasted back home, and they both drink it. So go ahead.
That whole entire speech he gives out there in the dark or whatever, when he's like talking or whatever, it was really, really. I thought it was a good scene for the movie because the whole movie's high octane.
Mhm.
But then here's the scene where he's talking to I thought it was just good.
Yeah. And that's what before we get to that, they basically cuddle around and they start talking. And again, Pancho says,
The jungle that came alive and took him. Billy, you know something. What is it?
I'm scared, Pancho.
Bullshit. You ain't afraid of no man.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. We're all gonna die.
probably one of the most famous quotes from the film, "We're all gonna die." Randy Mueller, who does the Florida Panthers games, is known for throwing in movie quotes when they score goals on the radio, and his one where he does the Billy tribute is probably hilarious. When they score a goal, he just screams, "We're all gonna die!" It just shows too, badass Billy is scared. Yeah, the sound of the heat vision. We're gonna get to the next part too, and then we cut to they build a perimeter. They're just gonna stay camper. They have Blaine's body with them, and this is the famous scene that you said where Mac actually does a monologue. And I love this scene too, Tone, because the saw the moonlight on his face as he's looking to the sky. It's actually some great acting by Bill Duke, who is a traditionally trained stage actor, which you might not know. And he plays a lot of cop roles and a lot of comedic roles. He's actually in Busta Rhymes' Dangerous video. He plays the partner, Busta Rhymes' partner as a cop. But he does a great monologue, and you kind of feel bad for him. And he's saying you tell he misses his friend.
What's another movie starring Carl Weathers and Bill Duke?
Isn't it Action Jackson?
You got it. There you go. Action Jackson.
Carla's only starring film. But yeah, just that whole scene, and then we see when he sitting there doing his monologue and saying he's gonna get him, he's gonna cut him. We see this pig come out of nowhere, and he jumps on him, and like he sets off all the flares. He starts stabbing it, and then this happens.
You killed a pig. What the?
Do you think you could have found something bigger?
Yeah, fuck you, Parker. Fuck you.
That part makes me laugh because of Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're supposed to be serious, and Billy is just laughing his ass off. They then find that Blaine's body is missing, and they're saying he came from under the tripwires. Well, he basically set the pig off as a diversion and took the body, and now they can't find the body. Also, during the scene, we kind of missed it a little bit, but backtracking, we do see that when the predator was shot, he goes to heal himself. Tone, we actually see his full body. I think you actually have a scene of this, don't you? In the
This isn't the one that I have.
Oh, okay. I thought it was this. Okay, but he this scene right here, that he has is actually
Oh, you mean the one on the screen? Because the one I got here is for Billy.
No, it's fine. No, I thought you had the one where he goes and sits on the log.
You mean when he gets killed here?
No, when the predator sits on the log.
No, you never even saw my scene, so how would you know what my scene is?
I saw it. It looks like it's here.
Well, you see a clip of it, but you never played it. So by one,
no, I didn't play it. I'm playing the guessing game here. But we do see that the predator. We actually see a full body showing of the predator as it pulls out the bullet that Mac had shot him with, and that's actually pretty cool. You see his hands. You hear him making all its clicking noises. You hear it scream when it pops the bullet out. You see it shooting itself with basically antibiotics or sterilizers. I think that whole scene of seeing the first appearance of his lower body was awesome. What'd you think?
Very awesome. I always thought it was cool when you saw the reveal a little bit more as the movie went on of the Predator. Like, had a lot of cool tools, but then also when you took off all the body armor, you got to see it actually look like an alien.
While it's not confirmed, I wonder if Peter Cullen also voiced a big. He might have. It could have been him. Now regrouping, they find out that Blaine's body was taken. They are regrouping in the daytime, and Arnold realizes there's something afar. There's something going on. There's something out there. And he goes and talks to Anna again, and he asks her about this creature that she saw.
It changes colors, like the chameleon. It uses the jungle.
You saying that Blaine and Hawkins were killed by a fucking lizard?
That part makes me laugh all the time because Dylan is such a dick. Like, he just, tells it, like, he discredits everything she says. She tells him that, she saw it bleeding.
There is something else. When the big man was killed, you must have wounded it. Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
And they find out that through Arnold's, observation, it's using the trees is how it's getting around. So they decide to set a trap, and we see a montage of them basically showing off their muscles, pulling up this gigantic log and setting traps for the predator. They eventually use Mac as bait, and this is probably one of the most iconic scenes in my mind because it's crazy to see Bill Duke sitting there and he pushing so hard with the disposable razor, and he actually improvised that shaving scene because the crew couldn't get the squirt packs to work correctly, so he improvised basically cutting himself for art in that scene, and it just shows he's so like traumatized and pissed that he basically makes himself bleed. And the predator does try to come and get Dutch as he's talking to Mac. He tries to sneak behind him, but it gets caught in the trap and screams the whole time, shooting off its lasers and rockets and whatnot. And unfortunately, Pancho is the one hit with the log, which basically caves in his chest. And we see Mac looks up in the sky as the predator gets free, and he sees it's blinking, its eyes again disappear as Dylan sees, as Mac has called earlier. Dylan actually sees this, and Mac says, "I'm gonna get you, sucker," and chases him, with Dylan saying he's going to go with him and for Dutch and the rest of the team to get to the extraction point where the chopper is. Earlier, they were told that they are not that important. They have to go to the extraction point. They can't go where they get them where they were because they're in too deep in enemy territory. Uh, we then see kind of like a male bonding moment between Dutch and Dylan again, as Dylan kind of like is making up for his, bad actions before, trying to basically redeem himself. And he goes and meets up with Mac. And this whole scene of them trying to hunt the predator, the creature, Mac saying that he'll go around the other side and Dylan go around the back. Mac shimmies through the logs and we see him basically get his head exploded. Dude, like that whole laser beam from the predator just standing over him just kills him like crazy. That scene is crazy.
It is. It's very crazy.
We then see, Dylan realizing that Mac is dead and he sees the predator. And then we see, great optical effects of him running around him in the camouflage. We see him trying to shoot the predator, which he gets one of his arm shot. This scene always was like really hard for me to see as a kid because his arm is like laying there still gripping the gun.
It was also like, to me, I know it's like part of me made me laugh too, though, because with the gun's still like shooting, but it's off, and then he's like, ah. And then to
like,
rewind here, what Travis says here, Pancho getting hit with the log makes him cry every time. Me too. My favorite lines in the movie is we passed a little while ago, but after they're like, he's sitting there and they're like, I don't think he's gonna do it. And he's like, I can make it.
Yeah,
I can make it. It's just the way he says it, but it just sounds so not confident. But the great line in the movie.
Yep, totally. That's true, Travis. So we see Dylan loses his arm, and we see the predator circle him with his blade, and Dylan tries to switch over to his other gun that's on his other arm. So as he grabs it to shoot, the predator goes and basically drives his, I don't know if it's a sword or blade, into his lower abdomen, and he screams, and you hear the roar through the jungle with all of them, Billy and Pancho and Anna and Dutch basically turn around to hear the scream from Dylan, and Dylan has met his demise. And as we go forward, Billy stops from them going to the extraction point. And what happens, Tone?
Oh, this is probably, of all the scenes in the movie, I still do this probably every single day.
Billy!
Just that, Billy! I probably do that right there a lot. I love that scene.
Yeah, Billy throws his weapon, basically ties up his native symbol he has around his neck. He ties it around his hand and pulls out the biggest fucking machete I've ever seen and basically cuts his chest as a way to take on the predator one-on-one. Though his death is not shown on screen, the scene left an impact on Dan Trachtenberg for the director of Prey, and he wanted to pay tribute to Billy in, Prey. They say that Billy's character, Sonny Landham's character Billy, actually was inspiration for them to go more of an indigenous way, character for Prey, which I thought was pretty interesting. Billy was my favorite character in the whole film because of his laugh. And we don't see his death. He just hear this scream, and they will all turn back with their guns.
The only thing crazier than his laugh is that scream. He's like,
yeah.
Honestly, it's the loudest scream in the whole movie. It's honestly, he's probably, I would say, he's my favorite too, man. If it's not Mac, anytime. I mean, those two characters are just great.
Yeah, it's just a crazy scene. And then, once that happens, they turn their weapons to shoot. And then all of a sudden, we see another missile go and just basically hits Pancho in the head, and he's gone. It shoots and hits Arnold as Anna tries to go pick up a gun. Arnold kicks her away and says no. Because we find out that the predator only hunts those with weapons. So he gets her away from safety, and he shoots the tree to where he gets shot. His gun gets shot with another, I guess, I don't know if they're missiles or plasma blasts. I would say they're plasma blasts. And we hear probably Arnold's most famous line in movies.
Run!
Which Anna runs. Arnold tries to run away, and the Predator is chasing him. To eventually he falls down a waterfall, which I thought was an awesome looking scene. Doing some research for this, we find out the man who doubled for Arnold for the fall blew out his knee performing that particular stunt. So that sucks. Arnold falls into the water. The Predator follows him afterward. As he gets to the shore, he puts his head in mud and he sees the Predator coming after him. He turns over, so his whole body is covered in mud. And the way this was done was they basically, these staff would spray him with a hose, like they were stacooing a horse, and stuccoing a house. It basically says. So they would spray him with a hose basically that way for the mud. Mythbusters in 2003 proved that covering yourself entirely in mud doesn't in fact conceal your body heat, because after only a short time, the mud on your skin becomes warmer. Well, you know what, Mythbusters? I do not care. I believe mud protects us against predators. We see that the Predator cannot see his heat signature, which Dutch figures out. And we finally see him prepare for the final battle as he sharpens out his stakes. He packs together his bomb from his ammunition into an arrow shot. One of my favorite parts is when he's actually on the tree after he sets the fire, and he's standing there waiting for the Predator to come down to that little bridge he made. We see the Predator actually crawling on the side of him next to him, which is would freak the shit out of me. I don't know how the Predator couldn't hear him breathing, but yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. And then we see him, shoot the arrow. The Predator that messes up the Predator's plasma gun, and he eventually falls into the water when the Predator just beats the living shit out of him.
Oh, I know, that's great.
What do you think of that whole sequence there?
Probably, honestly, visually as a director, the whole time from the time he first falls into the water till he crawls out, till he's got the mud on him, till that whole scene, it's to me, as a kid, it's I don't know if it gets any cooler than that. Just visually, I mean, and then you realize probably what it really actually looked like out in the jungle. Not the easiest probably thing to film.
Yeah. And as Dutch is getting beaten up by the Predator, he's running towards a trap that he had set to where he finally goes inside and he says,
Do it! Do it!
Come on, kill me! I'm here! Come on, do it now! Kill me!
To which the Predator looks up and sees that he has kind of like a makeshift, spikes. But I think when I was watching the film today, I thought it was a decoy.
What was
that whole makeshift spikes that he had above? Was that a decoy to get him to come to the other side?
Well, no, I think it could have. I always thought he wanted him to come under there and then he'd stay, something like that, but it just didn't work out that way. But I mean, when you're out there and he's putting all that stuff together, I mean, I'm shocked that he made it out.
Yeah. To where he crossed the other side as it's coming in through the other side of the tunnel, and he drops a giant log on him, which crushes.
But yeah, you are right. It is a decoy.
Yeah,
because why would you want to because to get him to come around for the thing to drop? No, yeah, I'd say it was a decoy. Now that I thought about it for a second.
Yeah. So the Predator is standing there, and he's about to hit it with a rock, and he sees it spitting up blood, and he asks it, "What the hell are you?" And it just responds back, mimic him, "What the hell are you?" We then see the famous little countdown on its arm, and we get this final scene. Probably one of the creepier scenes of the film.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Billy laugh can make me laugh and also freak me out at the same time. We see the explosion and we see Dutch amongst the rubble, and I guess he's covered in dirt or dust. I don't know, but the helicopter picks him up at the end. He's taken to safety. Now, if you play Predator Hunting Grounds, Arnold actually came back and a total ongoing story. What happened to Dutch? But I don't want to spoil that. Play the game. It's actually really interesting. Not a great game, but the little things you collect in there are pretty cool. But that's Predator. Tone, that was a very deep breakdown there. Also, Travis, man, you are throwing out some great tidbits of
Thank you, Travis.
knowledge here. You're saying during the waterfall scene in the third film where they go down, Topher Grace is the only actor who performed its own stunt. Yes, I know that's crazy. And then the predator creature stands out amongst the alien, Freddy, and Jason as it's not the one, as in not one, but two iconic faces, the mask and the face itself. Yes. When he takes off the mask and he says, "You are one ugly mother." That's an iconic scene in itself. Um, Overall tone, like rewatching the film, what are your final thoughts on this one?
Visually, the cinematography's close to perfect for a movie like this, an alien movie. Definitely different than we went through Alien and Aliens. I think it's a whole different kind of a beast. Definitely what I would think is that for somebody like Dougie in the comments who's never seen it again, you don't ask me much, but if there's something that I dream, it would be just to see this for the first time again. Like, so like when somebody usually when I was like in 15, 16, when somebody told me they didn't see something, I'd be like, "You didn't see it? Oh, you stupid." Now it's someone doesn't tell me, I'm almost like jealous, like Katie, because she can't remember movies sometimes from 12 years ago that we saw, but she's like, it's like a new experience. It's great.
Yes, it is. It's Kevin Peter Hall who's actually the helicopter pilot, and the explosion is the matte paint that they didn't have to animate, so it's still an image. That's awesome. Um, yeah, Kevin Peter Hall, he actually got that role as a thank you from his director because of all the treacherous sweating he had to do in the outfit. Um, but yeah, this is a great film. I love this film. I would watch it at least once every couple months. Still holds up to this day. Um, you want to go into some fan theories and how it was received?
Let's do it.
You know that fat cocksucker says I look like the Shah of Iran?
Who does? Tony. I never got that at all.
Predator grossed $98 million on a $15 million budget, so it made bank in the 80s. Though finding the creature's motivations poorly explained, critic Roger Ebert was more complimentary of the film. He wrote, "Predator moves at a breakneck pace." This is Roger Ebert's words. "It has strong and simple characterizations. It has good location photography and terrific special effects, and it supplies what it claims to supply, an effective action movie." He gave it 3 stars, I believe, and Cisco loved it. I remember watching their review of it, and they both loved the film.
Ebert, what he just said there, that's pretty much wrapped up in a whole of how I feel. It's quick on its feet. You get just enough to know about the characters that you do. You don't know where they came from besides where they're in the jungle. You don't know anything about their families. Are they married? You just know they're in this situation, and then mix all that with great cinematography. Again, can you imagine this movie with that that original design of that alien? Put that video on one more time. We gotta but
It definitely would not have been taken
that red
seriously.
alien with that red person.
Jumping out like that. It reminds me of like a B-level like monster movie.
Bad.
Yeah. Um, the film spawned comics, games, and sequels: Predator 2, Predators, The Predator, Prey, other like spin-offs of other series such as Alien versus Predator, Alien versus Predator Requiem, and even a YouTube Batman fan-made film called Batman Dead End. If you haven't seen it, it's actually gives a good, it's cheesy, but it has both the alien and the predator in it. It's also got Boner from Growing Pains
Oh, great.
as Joker, and he actually does a really, really good job. He's actually I've seen him on lists of people who say he's probably one of the best Jokers that has short screen time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so check out Batman Dead End if you haven't. When it came time to recognize the Predator with the Academy Award nomination, the combination of techniques used had the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences officials unsure as to which category the Predator belonged in. The mechanical features of the character had suggested the makeup effects category, but due to the camouflage effect, there was a visual effects aspect to the character as well. Ultimately, Stan Winston was nominated for an Oscar for The Predator in the Best Visual Effects category, just as he'd been for Aliens, and he won that category. But he and his co nominees lost to the effects team from Inner Space. Boo. Though in the same year, the category had recognized the Predator's creature as a visual effect, it honored Rick Baker with an Oscar in the Best Makeup category for his work in Harry and the Hendersons.
Great
This was
movie.
despite the fact that Harry had been achieved in exactly the same way that the Predator had, with a performer wearing a suit and a mechanical head. In fact, the same actor, Kevin Peter Hall, had performed in both suits.
Legendary performance. That's a good movie. John Lithgow, classic.
Yep. The kid in the fourth pair with son has a red wearing the prototype suit. Yeah. Good callback, man. Benny Hill music. That one needed, but yeah, so we could add that to that. So we have we have a fan theory here, and this is a long one, so I only chose one. The fan theory is named Predator 1987. The alien tries each man's masculinity. Each man who dies does so in a manner benefiting his swagger. This is from Fan Theories subreddit. The user deleted his name, so I could not give him credit. But if you go into the show notes on the website, you can click and view this whole story and other stories for Fan Theories. It starts off with, it's a well-worn idea that Predator is a film about masculinity. You have 7 men each competing for alpha status, showboating their strength, their roughness, and physical power. I like to go a step further. I like to suggest that the trials of the film are a test of masculinity, and that each man who dies does so in a way that mocks his masculine performance. Let's go through the kills in order. Hawkins. Scrawny, glasses wearing radio man Hawkins is the first to die. Appropriately enough, that's how he wrote it, apportionately. That's weird. He is the least successful in projecting his masculinity. He fails to crack bawdy jokes about his girlfriend's vagina, finds little useful intel for the team, and kills no one during the guerrilla camp raid. He does kill people, I think, doesn't he? He dies when he runs after Anna and catches the attention of the predator. Out of context, the scene also resembles a rape. Hawkins chases Anna and wrestles her to the ground. But this dynamic is reversed when the predator runs him through, drags him on his back, strips him naked, and disembowels him. Do you remember the joke he keeps telling? It's about how big his girlfriend's
Oh, yeah.
is. The
Oh, yeah.
actually carves him a very large one of his own. We see him moments later dangling upside down with a gaping hole in his belly. A ghoulish detail, judging by a naked Marine's Billy discovers at the start of the film. Similarly skinned and upside down, the predator just doesn't disembowelment, it castrates them. Oh shit. Wow.
Wow.
This guy that's into a lot of detail. So he goes
Sure did.
he goes on to Blaine. Blaine's not the weakest of the remaining crew, but he is certainly the showiest. The showiest? With his enormous minigun. Blaine has the most famous line outside of Arnie's when he is shot in the arm. Ramirez rushes to his aid. You're bleeding, man. Blaine having none of it. I ain't got time to bleed. Indeed, he doesn't. When the predator fires a plasma bolt through Blaine's torso, the resulting wound is bloodless. Ooh. Mac is the next, and he says, you remember Mac? He's one who snatches Dylan from behind, threatening that if he blows the team's cover, Mac will bleed him slow and quiet. He's probably the least mentally stable of the gang, by far the most mentally violent, and with the propensity to talk to himself. When the predator escapes,
It's so sweet. She is
Yeah.
pointing at screen. So great.
Mac takes chase, babbling to himself, mentally decomposing into a violent trance. Yes, he does. I mean, I'm gonna get you, sucker. I saw you. I'm coming. You think that if anyone can outsneak the predator, it's Mac, but the predator has him sussed fairly quickly. Sliding on his back, Mac suddenly sees a target on his wrist. It runs over his arm and head, and blam. At first, it wasn't obvious to see how Mac might have been prompted this death in particular, but I recall 2 things. Firstly, that Mac constantly ritualistically shaves his head. He's doing it right from the first time we see him on the helicopter, so a headshot seems appropriate, though I admit the tie is a little weak. It may be the only one in the film, though, if you interpret Ramirez's death as a neck shot. What's more, Mac's apparent madness makes his head his weapon. He's just a little crazy, and that's supposed to make him scary. But there's no brain chemistry so unstable it can't be met with a well-paced microwave pulse. So mocks the predator. Another matter I remembered is his threat to the Predator the night before. I'll carve my name into your skin. It's actually the Predator that marks Mac with his laser sight. The triangular target is the nearest we get to the alien's calling card, and it's traced over Mac's flesh slowly and carefully. Eventually, it's visually imprinted on his head by force. A final tenuous link, Mac promises to bleed Dylan slowly. Mac's own death seems to be the slowest. Even when his forebrain is blasted apart, we see his body continue gasping and twitching until the least seen cut,
Oh,
and
Lord.
therefore implicitly longer. Everyone else dies fast. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
And Blaine had ducked after the first shot. Okay, he probably could have survived. He could have. He could get off a shot of that minigun. We go to Dylan next. Dutch's old friend from some unnamed army unit. Dylan is keen to show he hasn't softened with promotion to higher ranks of military brass. He greets Dutch with his arm wrestle and he loses. This turns out to matter. Dylan has his arm lasered off and is shortly run through by the Predator's claws. This death is most obviously telegraphed. It's the same arm. In the former scene, the arm is brought to the ground as it's desperately pushed back. In the latter, the arm falls to the ground, firing its weapon impotently. We go on to Ramirez. Ramirez, slim and wearily. Ramirez isn't a major presence in the movie, so that this one's a little tougher to read. If you can't read, he's the Green Beret who gets hit by a long trap, sent flying and landing in a crippled heap. His limbs along for a little while his limbs, I think he meant he limps along for a little before he unceremoniously shot in the neck. These are not proofread, people. Ramirez's greatest swaggers happen in the guerrilla camp raid, carrying a six-shooter grenade launcher. His well-paced blasts fling enemies through the air over and over. I counted 4 shots of men being thrown towards the camel by explosion in that scene, and 3 of them belong to Ramirez. The other grenade is from Billy. The film fixates on these shots enough to conclude they're supposed to be impressive, so it's poignant irony that Ramirez is thrown through the air in a similar manner. Not convinced? There's a little ad hoc addition to the original screenplay. When Blaine boldly asserts he ain't got time to bleed, Ramirez quips back, "Oh yeah, have you got time to duck?" Ramirez is later crippled by a fast-moving lock to the chest that everyone else just jumps under. Oh, so that kind of goes back to your theory, Travis, that Blaine should have ducked. So should have Ramirez. We then go to Billy. And he says, Billy doesn't swagger. He acknowledges his fear, listens to his superstitious instincts, and generally prefers to act rather than talk. He is granted the most noble death of all the soldiers, an offspring fate that preserves the mystery and lets us imagine, or rather hope, he died bravely. But he dies all the same because he chooses not to run. And that is a difference between him and Dutch. Running is how Schwarzenegger's character survives. He runs and falls into a river, covering himself in mud. He backs into a corner camouflaged thermally. He lets the predator chase him into a trap, which eventually proves the alien's undoing. Of course, there's a practical reason for Dutch to retreat. The way power shifts between man and monster makes the scene engaging and tense. It modulates out our fear and hope, but it's curious how feminine our hero cries are when he hear him from the predator's point of view. They are high pitched and whimpering. Yeah, they are when he's chasing him and he's beating the shit out of him.
Oh yeah.
Dutch doesn't hide his pain or his fear. In fact, he's actually the least ostensity, I guess, masculine person, I guess he's saying here, of all the squadron. His masculinity comes from acting with instinct and knowing the land, not swearing performance. Turns out that's the real masculinity that always matters.
Whoa, mind blown.
That was actually a really good fan theory.
It was, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And we have here, just as Dylan lured Dutch into the village with dead hostages for his own means, and Dutch pins him to the wall, the predator lures Dylan into his own trap with Max Corp. Yes, good job, Travis. A lot more thinking in this this Predator movie, a lot more mind blowing, and a lot more deep thought that goes along with this. Thought. Any final thoughts, Tone?
Again, great movie. I do have to let the cat out of the bag. I am partial to part 2 a little bit more than part 1. But I do love part 1. And boy, I'm going through it here and just, I think I'm going to put it on again here as soon as we get done.
Part 2, man. I like part 1 better.
I like well, again, Part two, it's different. There's more action in it. Again, the risks are higher. I mean, when you have Danny Glover as a lead, I mean, of course, I mean, who isn't going to pick Arnold over Danny Glover? I just like to go into a more, and as Travis stated, both scripts actually, I think people really harked on part two when the reality is part two holds up pretty well to part one, even if you don't think it's better part two. But a lot of people are like, part two, I mean, Bill Paxton, okay? All I have to say out there, folks, is Bill Paxton does a great job in that movie, and so does Danny Glover. I mean, Danny Glover, especially at the end when he's on the ship, he's got a little bit more to work with than Arnold did.
Yeah.
But I love both movies. I just thought I'd throw it out there that I love part two quite a bit. I don't know if I love it as much. I just like it quite a lot.
Bill
Where
Paxton,
a lot of people are like, there's a huge drop off after part one, but
I don't think it's a huge drop off. I actually like Predators. I thought Predators was pretty decent. Prey, I think, is fucking phenomenal.
Well, the
not just
difference between Predators and these two movies is the effects. I mean, Predators is good and all, but there's a lot of computer graphics that take away from the magic, which you explain with, Kevin doing the suit and stuff like that, which I think is what makes these first, at least the first couple, pretty awesome.
Yeah, they kind of went back to that in Prey.
They did.
With the old version.
Prey was awesome.
But Bill Paxton, the only actor to be killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and an Alien. So you got to try that. But let's move on to a couple other segments we got here. Just two quick ones. Let's move on to what's coming soon. So
let's get ready to rumble.
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Next week we got we're gonna start talking about some comedy movies from the era of the 2000s. We're gonna pick some lists. We're gonna go through them. We're gonna see what we have and chop it all up.
Yes, sir. We're gonna talk about some comedy movies. We're gonna go back to the old format as we are rotating between the old and new format. So we'll do a list with a lot more sound clips and trivia and small breakdowns. Yeah,
I love
looking forward to that
because you get deep dive on an awesome classic like Predator, and then next week, little awesome deep dives on a multiple level of great comedy movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll be back at the regular time, Friday at 8:00, around 8:15ish on next Friday, because there is no game that we have to go to. Oh, he did. He survived Alien 3, my friend. He was shut down. That's how he got out. But he did kill Pumpkinhead, so he killed Pumpkinhead. You have to throw him in there. Lance Henriksen's like one of my favorite character actors that doesn't get enough respect.
I love the in the making or whatever of Terminator, in the little booklet, James Cameron talks about how he was going to be pretty cool.
What was the vampire movie we watched with him? After Dark, I think.
Yeah. Near Dark.
Near Dark. Check that movie out, Travis. Near Dark. Great film with Lance Henriksen.
Man's Best Friend's pretty awesome too.
Oh, that's another great film. Yeah.
Classic with Lance.
He's also in The Quick and the Dead as Ace.
He sure is. Hard target.
Yep. Also, be sure to check out the Sadistic Penguin Studios website. I have released a couple blogs. One with just released on Robert De Niro films, roles that we don't talk about a lot. That should get some more love. Check those out. Tony just released an awesome hookup on music dealing with Purple Rain was actually involved in it, which I thought was hilarious. I listen to your when I can't catch a show live. I listen to it on the train ride into the next day to work, which cracks me up. That's why I'm like when you do it, I'm like, oh man,
you excite me because that's why I'm like put into it. And I imagine you on the train listening to it, and I'm like, gotta make this awesome.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it, man. Come back. I love Nuggets, man. I'm a big fan of trivia and stuff, man. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Taking time. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, man. I love the hook on music. What you got planned this week, my man?
This week, honestly, we got some really awesome stuff. I've been looking into like the names of bands that you wouldn't think, like 10,000 Maniacs. You think they're a metal band? No, they're a little bit softer than that. So it's stuff like that, and
like 1,000 Clowns.
Yes, I love to do before the show is like when a band sits down for their set list and they sit down, and then it just all kind of comes together. Like that's how this last week came, and I was really proud of it because honestly, I did a little bit of some REM in the 1980s. The very next morning, they did a whole interview on CBS for the first time in 30 years, and I didn't even know that. So like by coincidence, night before, talking about something that happened. But check it out on Wednesdays, drops at 7 p.m. Also, check out all the other little videos that both me and Yumper are doing. A lot of cool stuff. Got the VHS, which is like a little bit of like the extras from what we're talking about here. And you did an amazing Furiosa Mad Max for those movie fans out there. Really, really great to check that out. And I also dug into the Tales from the Crypt's first 3 episodes.
Yes, check out the blog.
In a written blog. Just love Tales from the Crypt.
And be sure to look out for some old school stuff that we, some things that we had going before that now I have time to go back to. So now that I'm graduated finally. But yeah, be sure to check out that stuff on our website. Also, Getting Drafty did a great 1984 movie draft with Aloha Mr. Hand and Mailman Jack, 2 of our regulars here. Aloha's the OG Penguin, and of course Mailman Jack is a member of our show who does the special delivery, and it was a hilarious draft. Mailman Jack, when those 2 guys get together, it was fun. He will be doing 1994 on Sunday, Brian, I believe 1994.
Yeah, a week for next Sunday.
Yes, next Sunday at 8 p.m. 1994 draft. So you can get comedy movies on Friday, and then the 1994 draft with Brian on that day. I believe Jackie and Steve Niss are doing that.
Yeah.
Cool. So be sure to check that out. But to close things out, like always, let's get into the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week. The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
Man, last week, really after talking about summer blockbusters, this Batman Forever soundtrack, it had been a long time, and I dug back into it and looking at some of these, finding a soundtrack that has Brandy on it, Method Man, and then the singer of INXS and The Offspring, and, just a lot of different things going on. And that U2 song, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, definitely enjoy that one a lot. Just a very interesting soundtrack for the time period, because as you get into the later half of the album, you got the Flaming Lips and Sunny Day Real Estate and the Devlins, Nick Cave. Not generally a Mazzy Star, not who you're really going to find with Brandy and Seal. Of course, Seal won some Grammys for Kiss from the Rose. Just a really, I think, a wide variety of soundtrack of different sounds. Honestly, when going back to look at this, I'm shocked that I didn't even know Michael Hutchins of INXS did a solo song until going through this and finding out that he did that. But really, really cool. And even, we're not talking about it tonight, but the next soundtrack, REM was on Batman and Robin. You're thinking about, wow, Smashing Pumpkins and REM. As Brian,
it was Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah, as Brian says, terrible movies with outstanding soundtracks sometimes.
Great soundtrack. I actually had this. I had the CD. What sold me to the soundtrack was actually, it wasn't Kiss from a Rose. It was Flaming Lips, Bad Days, that got me to buy it. I really like that song. I still play it every once in a while.
But it's cool because in the movie, I mean, even The Offspring is songs in the movie, so like it's cool to hear Offspring in a Batman movie.
Yeah. Great pick, Tone. Awesome pick. That's our show. Thank you so much for everybody who joined, listened, and all the people who subscribed, liked, and listened to us on our podcast. We'll be back next week with some comedy films. Anything to close us out with, Tone?
No. Just get out there and watch some awesome stuff. Share it with us. We definitely enjoy you guys coming out and always talking with us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And take it easy, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?